Lord. Okay, this is just there. This is just some thoughts that came to me last Sunday whenever a pastor was preaching. Couldn't even tell you what the message was about now because I've slept since then. Uh, Sorry about the glasses, but I've got allergy bags from hell under my eyes. So, and I didn't sleep well because I'm itching all over constantly due to allergies, and it's about to drive me freaking up the wall. But that's not what this is about. This is just some thoughts that came to me while she was preaching and certain things that she was talking about, and she brought up 9/11, and I don't remember what she was saying again, but these are the notes that I took. 9/11 in 2001, after that disaster, after that tragedy, many flocked to the house of God. I mean, the attendance for church just dramatically just flew high, right? And but then in March of 2020, whenever they uh, started speaking about the COVID and the quarantine, and when the quarantine kicked in, we weren't allowed to go to church. And my thoughts was, why? Is it because whenever last time there was a major tragedy in the United States or something that affected many lives, or that could affect, in this case, COVID, they made us believe killed many people, um, they didn't want them to flock to the church. And why I put why? Because of the apostasy church? Is was it even though they said it, maybe it wasn't their doing, maybe it was set up to where they wouldn't allow us to go to church because of the end times that we're in and the way the apostasy churches are. God didn't want us to flock to the church like we did after 9/11 and be led false doctrines or doctrines of demons, correct? Or is it they disallowed the gathering in the house of God, as they knew with this pandemic many would flock to the house of God, so they had to stop that, right? There's just a couple of thoughts that I had. I remember when the quarantine, when they were, before they actually said the quarantine, but when the news first came out about COVID and how dangerous it was, and how many people have already died from it, and when they actually had fear in people's hearts, um, our church had decided to not have church that Sunday. But I knew that the church I attended on Sunday nights was still having service. And so, just like 9/11, when many people were scared and they sought after God, for confirmation and comfort, and to feel safe, and to try to get answers to what's going on and why this tragedy would happen or why this is happening, a lot of people would have flocked to the churches. And so I had mentioned that, hey, for that, because there was some members of my church that did go to this church on Sunday nights anyway. So I was really kind of talking to them. I was letting them know, well, hey, this I won't name it, church is having service this Sunday. If any of you, are afraid and feel the need to be in God's house, they're still having service. That was the wrong thing to do. But in 9/11, that's the first thing everyone did. Now, the sad thing that happened about the COVID thing is some churches still had service. Ours did not have, sadly, and the other one, they had it outside. They didn't stop having service. They just had the musical instruments inside, and they set speakers outside of the building, and everyone sat in their cars. Now, this is in Oklahoma, so we could do it. They sat in their cars with their windows cracked so that they could hear the music and hear the pastor preaching from inside the church. But all the music and everything that was being done from inside the church was being broadcast outside the building. So the only person that was inside the church was maybe the piano player and a bass player maybe, and the pastor himself. And so they still had church, but it was outside in your cars, in their cars and whatnot. But after the quarantine was lifted and many were allowed to finally go back to church, even though some states like California said you can go to church but no singing, no singing, no speaking aloud inside that building. But that's a whole nother story. So we were allowed to go back to church, but Pastor Brandon House and Pastor Jack Hibbs, Pastor J.D. Farag, but mostly Jack Hibbs, who was a Baptist. He's Baptist, as far as I know. He's in California. he said that after after the quarantine was lifted and everyone was allowed to go back to church, which they continued having church. They didn't stop during the quarantine, by the way. Just like John MacArthur's church, even though I kind of think John MacArthur now is one of the woke, but he refused to. And there's several churches in California that refused to close the doors during the quarantine and still had church and was willing to take the fines that they were getting. And even some got arrested, I think, but that's another story. Point is after the pandemic, I mean, after the quarantine and everything, and everyone was allowed to go back to church, that's, Pastor Jack Hibbs said that, pardon me, a lot of folks sadly went back to a church that was now woke, that was now an apostasy church. They were, calling that is evil good, and that was good evil, and they became a worldly church. And he said that the growth in his church has probably quadrupled at this point now, in time now. But it practically doubled overnight when people returned to their home church and discovered that their thought process was completely different now. And as the apostasy churches grow, finding a church that truly preaches and teaches on the whole Word of God and also teaches about the end times to have the flock ready. See, we don't have time for the milk Christians to get caught up to eat meat and then warn them about the end times. We are there. 5 heifers just arrived in Jerusalem. Red heifers, kosher heifers. Plus, they already had some. The Israel Institute, they already had some kosher heifers that, as long as no mishaps happened, they already had, I think, 3 that were ready for sacrifice, and they just received 5 more that are kosher. And kosher means they're at least 2 years of age, and they have no more than, I believe, 2 white hairs. And some of those that are in Israel, that were already in Israel, had developed like a 3rd red hair or a 4th or whatever. But then somehow, miraculously, those white hairs went ahead and turned back red, which made them kosher. So as long as they don't have any, they've never had a yoke put around their neck and made them do any kind of work, as long as they've never had children or mated, like that, they're considered kosher. And as long as they don't have any blemishes or spots or any kind of damage to their body. So they have at least 5, if not, I think, 8 now. 7 or 8 kosher red heifers is what they need to start doing the sacrifices in the temple again. And they have full intention of sacrificing animals on Rosh Hashanah, or Moed, which is the feast of the New Year. Moed is the feast of trumpets. And in Rosh Hashanah, it begins on, I think in the U.S. here it's on the 25th, which is a Sunday. But technically it starts on the evening of the 24th in Israel. Something to that nature. Anyway, it starts around there. According to our calendar, it starts on the 25th. And they're all set to do sacrifices. Now, granted, a lot of the people there at that I can't pronounce it, it's like AQSA or AQZA or whatever that where the Temple Mount is, those people are saying that they are not going to allow the Jews to do their sacrifices with animals, but we'll see what happens. But do you see everything that's coming together? You see everything that's coming together for the fall feast. See, the fall feast is still needs to be fulfilled by Yeshua. He fulfilled the spring feast. I had posted a picture that shows the 4 spring feast that Jesus fulfilled, right? And then there's the summer. Jesus says, when you see the leaves become tender, know that summer is near. Well, the summer in between the spring and fall, or it's summer, right, is also the church age. And I took the picture, I copied it, screenshot it, just as it shows the church rapturing when the Feast of Trumpets is getting ready to begin in the fall harvest. A lot of people feel that this is the year, because this is the year of Jubilee. A lot of people feel that this is the year that the rapture may happen. We don't know. No one knows the day or hour. No one knows. But I'm getting off topic. But the other thing, but just keep that in mind with everything going on. Oh, and the fact that on September 20th, Israel fully intends to drill in the sea that they consider as their part of the land, their part of the sea. And Hezbollah is saying it's not theirs, but it is, right? It is. It does belong to Israel. And they told him, if you drill, we have 150 missiles pointed at every part of Israel, land and sea, and we will attack. And Israel is like, it's our land. We're going to do what we're going to do. So they plan on drilling anyway. So if Hezbollah attacks them, they already have three others coming at three other fronts. Hezbollah's the fourth. And what does it say in the Word of God about when Israel is surrounded by countries coming in to attack? Well, we know. We can read it for yourself. And then the last note that I took, then she was talking about Lazarus. Not the Lazarus with the rich man, but Lazarus, Jesus' friend, Mary and Martha's brother. A lot of people don't understand the significance of why Jesus cried, why Jesus wept there, okay? There's two times it talked about Jesus cried. When the shortest verse in the Bible where it says Jesus wept, that's when he's on the donkey, the colt, or the donkey. I think he actually rode the donkey. I don't think he rode the baby. And he's about to ride into Jerusalem where they start putting the palm branches down and whatnot. And he starts weeping. And when they say weep, they don't mean just crying. When someone weeps, it's just just loud and just really loud and just really wailing it out. Jesus wept. He wept hard because he knew at this point it was too late for them to receive him as the Messiah, and he knew what was going to happen to them. And it grieved him badly, deeply. It grieved him very deeply to know that his chosen people, God's chosen, his chosen, because he was God in the flesh, were going to perish in their sins because they did not recognize the signs of the times, and they did not realize that Jesus is the Messiah. If they had studied the scriptures in Ezekiel 53 and Ezekiel 52 and Daniel and Isaiah and so many scriptures in the Old Testament talk about Jesus. Micah talks about him being a seedling, and so yet so small, but yet he will grow to be so great, talking about the Messiah who came as a baby, right? Came to save the world. Anyways, but this weeping is when some messengers were sent to tell him his friend Lazarus is sick. Well, Jesus, where he was camping at the time, was 2 days away from, I believe it was Bethany. I could be wrong. Wherever they were at, it was 2 days' journey away. So they said, your friend Lazarus is dead, is sick. And so Jesus stayed where he was 2 more days. So Lazarus lay sick 2 more days, right? And then after 2 days, Jesus said, let us go to Lazarus. He is sleeping. And Thomas was like, well, Master, if Lazarus sleeps, then he will recover. And Jesus didn't mean sleep as in take a nap. He meant sleep as in he died. And that's why I believe when we leave our earthly body, when we die, I believe we sleep until the resurrection. Just to be honest, I think we sleep. That's me. That's my thought. Too many times it refers to sleeping. Like when King Saul had that witch wake up Samuel, the prophet, and he said, why did you disturb me from my sleep? Jesus, when he went to go and heal the little girl that was sick, and they were all weeping, he says, why are you weeping? She's merely sleeping, right? Lazarus, let's go to Lazarus, for he has fallen asleep. He's not sleeping, he's dead. He had to actually tell him plainly, he's died, he's dead. So they get there. By this time, Lazarus has been dead 4 days, okay? Because they told him he was sick, and Lazarus died, and he waited 2 days, right? And then it took him 2 days to get there. So Lazarus, according to Martha, or Mary, whichever, I can't remember exactly, has been dead for 4 days. Here is the key thing about that. Here's the key thing. This is why Jesus took 2 days to go and see Lazarus. You see, they believed back then that for the first 3 days after a person dies, their soul is just kind of wandering around, right? And there's a chance that their soul could return to their body and they could be alive again. But because it had been 4 days, on the fourth day, they know that then your soul is either going to go to where, in their beliefs, your soul is in hell at that point. It's in Sheol, or paradise. There's no resurrection. It's too late. And see, even though after talking to Martha and saying, she's like, "Ma, teacher, if only you'd have been here, my brother would not have died." And he says, "I will raise your brother to life." She goes, "I know that you will at the end of days." And he says, at the resurrection. And he says, "I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he shall be dead, yet shall he live." And he asked her, "Do you believe this?" And she said, "Yes, Master. I believe that you are the Son of God, the Messiah, the one that the prophet spoke of to come." Right? So she told him, "I believe you. I believe that you can raise him, and not just at the end of days." So then they go and get Mary, right? And she says the same thing, "Master, if only you'd been here, my brother would not have died." Because at this point, at 4 days of being dead, they know he's dead. There's no coming back. His soul is not going to return. He's gone forever, ever, ever, right? And so he asked Mary, "Where have you buried him?" 4 days. His soul's not there anymore. And everyone knows this in their beliefs back then. And they take him to the tomb, and he said, "Roll the stone away." And Martha's like, "Master, teacher, it's been 4 days. It'll be a terrible smell." And he says, "Did I not tell you that I was the resurrection and the life? Did you tell me you did not believe this?" And when he got ready to go, when he said, "Show me where his tomb is," he saw the people weeping, and he started weeping, because even though he had done all these miracles, and everyone knew the miracles he had done, bringing sight to the blind, regrowing limbs, even though it doesn't really say that, but I mean, any kind of infirmity that this person had that they brought to Jesus, he healed. So you can just imagine that if someone had a limb missing, that he healed it and their arm grew back. I mean, he was God after all. He did make us, so. But it technically doesn't say that anywhere in the Bible. But so we'll just go with what we do know, what's written. Brought sight to the blind, hearing to the deaf, the lame to walk, and so forth. And I'm not sure if this is where he's already. I think Lazarus was the first one he raised. James.
Yeah.
When Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, had he already raised that little girl from death?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Or the widow's son?
I don't know. I think it's one of the last things he did.
What, Lazarus?
Yeah.
Was the last thing. So, if Lazarus was the last thing that he did, then the other two were not dead 4 days. They had been dead long enough that they could still come back to life. That's why they waited 3 days to bury someone, normally. Anyway, so he had already brought a little girl, I think she said Talitha, little girl, wake up. And then there was was it Jesus or was that Elijah that did the widow's son? That they were carrying the son out?
No, Elijah did the widow's son.
Oh, okay, I'm getting my stories confused. Okay, but I know Jesus did do the little girl. And I know they knew of all these things that he had done, but yet they didn't believe that he could do this, because they knew what the fourth day of being dead meant. It meant that there was no resurrection for him, as far as they were concerned. And that's why Jesus started crying. They thought it was because he really loved Lazarus, right? And his sisters. So he said, "Lazarus, come forth." So when he came forth out of that tomb very much alive, that told everyone there that he was the Messiah, because that was how he was able to show them absolutely, without doubt, 100%, only the Messiah could have done that, or God. Same difference, right? And that's why he waited so long to go, and then, of course, how long it took him to get there, and that's why he went on the fourth day after his death, because that way, when he brought him back from the dead, they would truly know that only God could have done that, or only someone that came from God, or in this case, the Messiah. And many believed that day. And that's why they were all the more trying to kill him, the Pharisees and whatnot. But I just wanted to share those things with you, because these were notes that I took the other day. But, it's just ironic that with the quarantine, they wouldn't allow us to have church, but you could go in a bar, you could crowd up at Walmart, You could crowd up, but not Walmart. Like at an abortion clinic, you could have a room full of people sitting around, and that was okay. You could have a room full of people sitting around in a bar, and that was okay. But God forbid you social distance inside of a church building. Not allowed. And you're going to tell me in the bars and in the abortion clinics that people weren't talking? Some even sing in the bar. You get drunk enough, start singing. And if it was a karaoke bar, well, there you go. So, none of it made sense, but it makes absolutely 100% sense to me. But I just wanted to share those with you, just some food for thoughts. I try not to make these too long, but I always manage to do it too. Anyway, so I just wanted to share that. Shabbat Shalom. I hope y'all have a blessed day, and know that Jesus is coming soon. And I pray that your house is in order. Your house, God's temple, is in order. Forsake the world. It has nothing for you but death. Amen. God bless.